Hey there, everybody. Today we're joined by Luke Arrigoni, founder at Loti AI, a 24/7 likeness surveillance and protection AI that promises to remove or recapture revenue on any media that has your likeness in it. We'll dive into what exactly that means in this episode. Now, Luke was also a lecturer at the University of Washington, principal data scientist and CEO at Arrigoni AI, and studied mathematics at Columbia University. Welcome, Luke.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Likewise. So, what's the story behind Loti?
Yeah, probably almost 3 years ago now, we had a project with a client. They wanted to be able to do partial face recognition. So think like an eyeball and a half, 20% of a face, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And we kept intellectual property from that and we pointed it towards the internet. And we started scanning the internet, making this massive map. And what came out of that was this idea around, like what we should be doing is allowing people to upload a picture of themselves to our site so we can find them and then help them remove content that doesn't belong.
Right.
And that evolved in, probably the end of 2023 when SAG-AFTRA went on strike for all the AI initiatives that were out there. I used to work in entertainment, so I called up some old friends and said, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? Us being able to take a look and find AI generated videos and images of people. I'm sure at the time you probably remember there was a lot of, even now, lots of fake AI endorsements where it's some celebrity pushing some vitamin 6000 kind of thing, right?
Right.
And we could detect all of that with our partial face stuff. So we could do the face and the voice recognition. And so in the start of last year, we started selling to a lot of celebrity public figure crowds specifically. And since then, our business has kind of been a booming.
Yeah, it seems like maybe you don't know, but I actually worked as a CEO of a creator management agency. Essentially, we would create content for brands.
Then you know this problem space. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
The creators that we hired would actually get approached by brands and say, "Hey, we're creating a digital likeness of you. Do you want to help us do that or not?"
I mean, think about being that creator, right? And someone saying like, hey, I can make a digital clone of you. At first, it might seem like, oh, that's awesome. I can make those ads that I hate having to sit down and make. And at the same time, it's a little scary thinking about someone replacing you with a machine and it is you being replaced. Like it is a facsimile of you.
Right.
There's a lot of complicated things you have to suss out. For us, we like to separate that into like a defense and offense kind of conversation, which is you can't have one without the other. If I'm talent, if I'm one of those influencers or I'm a celebrity or whatever, and I want someone to be able to augment the work I do with a clone of me, I want to also make sure that something is watching it to make sure that clone isn't generating crazy material. Right. And that if it is, that something's taking action and removing it right away. Don't just tell me like, hey, there's a fake video of you selling vitamins. Like that doesn't help me. Like go do something about it. So we think about both of these components, or really the conversation in talent's mind around AI being kind of a dual purpose kind of thing. He's like, how do I defend? How do I make? How do they interact? Right? And that's the full conversation. That's the full thing that needs to happen. You can't just take one side or the other.
100%. So then how do you end up searching the entire internet for these small slices of identity?
We're a wrapper around NVIDIA GPUs. Like there's a funny thing where every AI company is like, I'm a wrapper on OpenAI. Like, man, we just buy a ton of GPUs and we shove the internet into them and out come vectors, right? So, all right, so practically what does that look like? It looks like every day we boot up thousands of servers and we download everything that got uploaded across social media, questionable sites, WordPress sites and everything in between. And we say, okay, these images got uploaded. Are there clients in these images? Yeah, there's a client right there. Is there a rule set that says that this person should be here or not? Let's say it's social media, which is okay, but it's a false endorsement. It's a deep fake of them promoting a vitamin. We can look and say, hey, that's not a valid contract they have. Let's go ahead and tell Meta to issue a takedown here. And we can do that across the whole web.
Wow. I can honestly only imagine the scale and the complexity of the algorithms that you have to use in order to make that actually work.
There's like 40 different machine learning models we have. It's not like a single face recognition model.
Right.
There is a lot of nuance on doing that correctly for public figures because they want stuff to be left up. You can't use too big of a sledgehammer for something like that. And even as a consumer like myself, there's content I don't mind that'd be up of me. In fact, it can help my brand. Right. The podcast we're doing now, I would never want to issue a takedown on. Right. And so everyone kind of understands, right? Like there's some content that you do want that does promote you and your image and your brand. and then other stuff that you need to come down because they harm fans or harm your reputation. And
Right.
being able to suss out which one is which is a complicated problem.
It is. So then I guess the first step is, okay, going out, searching the internet and actually identifying the right and the wrong locations where somebody is being, portrayed in some capacity. But then there's the next step thereafter where it's like, okay, how do you actually go to these sources and get it taken down? Like that sounds even more complicated.
Yeah, you're spot on. We have an entire AI system that tries to figure out how to issue takedowns. And the strategy can be as simple as we have a special relationship with a social media company, and they've given us an API endpoint that we hit and tell them, hey, this needs to come down. And you know us, and you know that we're not going to BS you about this because, we have lots of these we send you. We do weekly calls with you, right? There's something that's more like, I only highlight this to say that there's some stuff that's just, it's high social and low tech, right? It's like us just introducing ourselves and what we do. And then we have a flip side, which are some of our takedowns are hyper aggressive. It's on like adult or explicit sites, and the content can be really damaging to some people, both consumers and celebrities, right? And in those situations, it's us more or less demanding that it get removed as soon as possible. And if it's not adhered to, us auto escalating. So us being able to reach out to the people that host the servers for that company, right? And kind of going up this chain and saying, hey, there's bad content here. And it may not be you, but you're liable. You're in the chain. I need you to get this thing gone today. So there's a spectrum of different types of takedowns, and we have one AI that kind of decides what the right strategy is depending on our relationships with these sites.
Oh, that's fascinating. So then who are like the current clients, the people who can really, you can really serve well right now and haven't served?
So mainly public figures. We have a lot of actors and musicians. We have a 3-star general. We have CEOs, kind of a really broad spectrum. There's a bunch of news anchors that we're signing up right now. So you get the idea. Like if you show up on the news for any reason whatsoever, you might be a client. And then we also released a consumer app the middle of March in the last week or so. And
Nice, congratulations.
yeah, I know that we're really excited about that because for those folks, for you and me, we might be really curious about what shows up of us online. Like, you would say you
Right.
Google yourself, you Loti yourself in the situation, right? You basically like just drop your face in and see, where do I show up online? And if there is some bad material, we'll help you take that down, right? Like that's not a big deal. But I think for most people, they'll just be curious, right? Some old summer camp picture from 15 years ago, right? Or your face at the dentist, smiling because you just really nailed your braces routine for 2 years, or or even just your Instagram photos, right? That show up that are public or someone else has uploaded it. Us being able to find you across the internet is kind of a fascinating thing that's never been done before. And we're really happy to provide that service for everyone.
Yeah, so it's like, and I don't know if you ever saw it or if you ever did it yourself, but back in the day when Google was like really becoming big, people would search up their own name and see what would come up, right?
Oh yeah.
So I guess it's like Google version 2 in that capacity.
It is. It's very much that. It's just the idea that you could just search up yourself, see where you show up, and then it's an evergreen account and it's free, right? So there's no reason not to. You basically sign up for a Loti account, you just keep it, and if we find anything, you get a little notification on your phone, like, hey, we found some content of you. And for 99% of people, it's going to be benign, right? Some friend has uploaded a picture from you from high school where you're at some party, right? And maybe that's good or bad, depending on what your party life was like in high school. But like, it's good to know, right? And, like maybe I'm not DMCAing Facebook for that one image, but you can maybe call your buddy and be like, maybe we don't put pictures from that party on Instagram, right? Like we're old men now. Let's not do this, right? But like just having awareness, right, without needing to be tagged, because some people don't even know who you are to tag you, right? Because time has gone by. But just knowing this is me, this is where I'm showing up online, and having that kind of security blanket of knowing that this service is always looking out for you and for free, we think is going to be a vital part of the internet.
I think so too. I think if anything, this is one of these smarter things I've heard about, like for over the past year or two in the AI space. This is something that isn't just like a nice to have, right? Like Midjourney, kind of a nice to have. If you're really creative, then it's great to have. But like a few things are almost necessities. This sounds almost necessary for everybody.
When you think about like the Midjourney is a great example. We all like using Midjourney. It's kind of a cool app, right? But there's going to be 10 of those. and people are going to try and upload pictures of their friends and make weird stuff, right? You just want to know, right? Like if someone has used, even I know we're no mean to harp on Midjourney, they're a great company, right? But let's say I did upload a picture of your face to Midjourney and like try to like make a model that liked it, and I uploaded it somewhere or whatever. You bet you're going to want a notification that Luke has uploaded some weird AI generated video of you, and it's becoming easier and easier to make that content. And
Right.
so, yeah, we do think that that's a necessary part.
I'm wondering if this actually can become some sort of like API that other platforms that generate videos or images can integrate into their overall like generations process, because there are, like, this, not to get heavy here, but there are situations where images of, like, there are girls who are committing suicide because they get an AI image generated, or AI generated
Yes.
video. So like, how do you actually stop it before that ever even gets out the door, before ever even gets generated?
So we are working with platforms so that when it does get generated, it gets cleared through us first. And so even consumers, so that is a good example. Sometimes there's like heinous material that is created through these systems. And let's say that one of those systems doesn't want to use us to clear, right? It's, it is what it is. That part of the internet will always exist. Well, when it gets uploaded somewhere like 4chan or one of these other explicit user upload sites, we'll find them and we'll take them down.
Right.
So we'll at least be able to limit that so it doesn't live out there. But in an ideal scenario, those companies will check with us. So we have free services for all of those companies. So as it gets generated, they just run it through us. And we say, hey, actually, we know who that person is, and they would not like any of those kinds of materials made of them, and it gets declined. And it's actually, there's a great willingness right now for those providers to want to work with us. We provide a shield of liability, and we don't cost anything. It kind of makes a lot of sense for them.
Right. How do you make it work if it doesn't cost anything?
We'll surprise the world on that one. We actually have I can't talk about it just yet, but we actually have a completely different mechanism for how we make money. But it's off of use, so we never have a plan to charge someone in that situation. Like if you want to sign up for our system, we're not one day going to flip the cost on or whatever. Like you get 5 free takedowns a month, and they accrue. So next month, if you don't use, you have 10, right? And we think that this is such a no-brainer, right? Like you go a year or two, you'll accumulate a couple hundred of these takedowns in case you ever do have a problem, right? And if you do need to take down more, like say 30 or 40 a month, we have a paid plan that's $25 a month, and you can cancel that, but whenever you want, right? You can reduce back to the free plan. So we have no intention of converting the freeness to something, but we provide a different kind of service and entertainment where we actually make a significant amount of money, and it won't impact any consumers. So more to come on that. But we do have a solid plan to charge the people that are making money on it, and not the people that are just trying to defend their image.
Now that's, again, one of the smarter things I've heard about in this.
We're trying to be very human aligned. There's lots of AI companies that are like, my whole thing is to like, not mine, but like they'll say their whole thing is to like to remove jobs, right? Or other stuff that's like very anti-human. Right. We're really trying to make a company that, while yes, we use AI models, we have 40 models or more now, we're trying to make it so it's human-centric. It's like, okay, as a human being, what would I like, right? Is there a way to charge the people that make money so that they're the ones paying for the system, and then those that are victimized by it don't have to pay, or pay very, very little optionally? Yeah, I think like that's the way we should structure it. So whenever we think about pricing, we're not lazy. We spend a lot of time thinking about what's the most humane way of structuring revenue. Because what happens is, and a lot of your listeners who run companies will understand this, as you make money, you start to optimize on that path. So if I start to charge a ton of money and make a lot of money for the people that are victimized by this space, there's a tendency to try and make more stuff to get more of those people into your system, right? Like, and that's like inevitable. So if from the beginning you think about, okay, if I'm $100 billion company and I'm in an optimization loop, who should I really be optimizing to extract the most money from? It should be people that are monetizing this, right? They're making a lot of money from it, and then making sure that you're reasonable in how you bring value to them. So there's a lot of thought that goes into how we stay aligned in the correct ways for people.
Right. So I guess that actually dives into one of the major topics, is AI ethics.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, there are people out there who maybe on one side of the spectrum believe that any sort of guardrails or any sort of like quote unquote censorship of the models is bad, or it combats, some sort of like free speech, foundational principle.
Respectfully, a lot of those people have never been victimized by it, Right. So I'm a big proponent of free speech. I do think that you should be able to generate and say and do what you want
Right.
to dissent against the government.
Right.
Right. I should be able to do that, but I don't think that free speech should apply to me making harmful content of you and then shielding myself behind free speech. Like, oh no, that's just free speech. Like, no, that's me being an asshole, right? Like that's like I shouldn't be able to make just random bad material of people and do
Right.
that. But do I think that there are certain political and ethical things that I should be able to speak freely on and not be, brought down on? Yeah, absolutely. Should I be able to dissent against any kind of government? Absolutely. But oftentimes when people talk about free speech now, it's diving into a category that is more like, should we enable bullying? Right. And then they just kind of hide behind that. So
Right.
I know we need probably some updates on how we view and talk about free speech. But in general, if someone comes at me that like, I should be able to make a video of you doing anything, Luke, I'm not going to be that inclined, right? Unless I'm a politician or elected professional of some kind. I do think that there are some limits. And so we have the same ethos, right? So when we talk about AI ethics, it's basically things that are First Amendment protected, we don't want to touch. Right?
Right.
You should be able to generate the content of those people, dissenting in the way that makes sense to you.
Right.
But no, we are not going to make it easier for you to make a video or an image of someone that you're in high school with because you think it's funny, right? And then hide behind or shield yourself with First Amendment. That's not something we're going to make easier.
Yeah, of course. The idea of basically establishing certain rules around what can and can't be generated, what should and shouldn't be taken down. If somebody were to jump onto the platform, could they set up their own sets of rules for how they want their likeness to be used?
We're working on that as a feature. We do think that people have their own way that they want, like friends and others, to generate them, right? And that's something that we're going to have like check boxes for. So like nothing explicit, right? Or no drugs, nothing political. You should be able to check those boxes and not have that get generated.
Interesting. So then I guess the question becomes, you've developed a system, multiple different AI models, and it sounds like your past work with Arrigoni seems to be really influential here. I just wanted to understand, like, how did you go about learning to build these models, and was it self-taught?
So I was a math major long time ago. Like I rode a velociraptor into school, and
Nice.
I jumped over lava, right? Like a very, very long time ago. And so, but maybe 10 or 15 years ago, just as starting my career, or at least 15 years ago, I started using math to try and find the line of best fit, essentially, to make money on things. So you might say, hey, I want to predict how many viewers I'll have on a podcast, right? And I take all of this data and I try and build some kind of formula, like manually, mathematically,
Right.
around predicting that. And it'd be like a line. And I'd figure out like, hey, this is where you're at on the line. I think you're going to have 800 listeners on this content, right? And I did this for a lot of different companies. And then in 2015, 2016, it became clear that neural networks were going to find that line of best fit faster than I ever could as a human being. The mechanisms by which it used or which it found those answers were superior to how I could do it. And so I made hard choices with me and my team where we decided, let's reskill. Like, we're not going to go back to school because school wasn't really teaching it. Just let's pick up the book. Let's figure out how we can also use neural networks. So about 10 years ago now, my team started really diving hard and like double downing at a time where it was like very fringe. And then by 2017 or 2018, a paper had been released by Google called Attention is All You Need. It was this landmark paper about transformer models.
Right.
And by that time, our team was really already invested in neural nets. We knew how to read that paper and understand it. And we saw that as a huge future. And every model that you enjoy today, like even ChatGPT, it's a transformer model. It's based off this one paper written so many years ago,
Right.
7 or 8 years ago. And so my team, we reskilled at a lucky time in 2015-ish, and then we we honed those skills in again around 2018 off that paper. And we just went into 2020, just tons of work, tons of capabilities. We got really lucky that we had made a couple of crucial choices and we had matched what trended well. Stuff you don't hear about today is like RNNs, like recursive, like neural networks, current neural networks. Right? There's an old school model. There's a lot of things that people have doubled down on that we got lucky. We doubled down on the exact stuff that happened to really pay out. And so that put us in a perfect spot when all of this tech came through to just make the most of it to capitalize.
I remember back in the day, I was reading papers as well, but I went into software engineering instead of actual artificial intelligence. But I remember reading about generative adversarial networks,
Yeah.
GANs, and that just opening my eyes. It seems like back then, this current state of things was going to happen one way or another.
You've perfectly picked like a very novel network design. So for anyone that's not listening, you just mentioned GANs, the generative adversarial networks, right?
Right.
And it's so cool because what it is, the primer on this, the explain it like I'm five, is you have one neural net that tries to make a picture, and you have another neural net that says that's a real picture or that's not a real picture. And
Right.
basically they play a game against each other, the adversarial part, where
Mhm.
one network tries to make a picture and then convince the other. And then eventually this network that does the generation gets so good that it tricks the other one into thinking that it's real, and then it passes, and now you actually have something that does
Mhm.
it. But it was a very novel idea. You're so spot on like that. I remember reading the GAN papers way back when, and also thinking like, that's super clever. Just have two AIs play each other until they get better and better.
Right.
Another good example of like, no human could play that game that fast, right? You could
Mhm.
never teach me to draw better like 1,000,000 times a second, right? But you can do that kind of thing with AI.
Right. It sounds like you have been making the right choices along the way for years. So it'd be really interesting to hear like how you went about making decisions on what to focus on and what not to focus on.
So I would say to start this conversation, we have to acknowledge survivor bias, right? Which is I could have just gotten lucky, right? And there's lots of people that had the exact same thinking as I had. They just picked the wrong thing. So we first have to acknowledge that it's entirely possible that I am just stupid lucky. But ignoring that, I'll talk about the process, right? A lot of times when we picked tech and we really went with it, it was typically clear that no other thing could beat it. And there was
Mm.
a humbling experience you had to have, right? You'd look at like when we read the paper, the attentions paper, right?
Mhm.
Attention is all you need.
Yep.
We saw that there was no way we could beat this. I'm looking at it, and you're just like, this is it. I can't build a system that outperforms these transformer models using RNNs or I think they're more complicated DNN. Like there was a moment with that you kind of get filled with that humility around like, hey, I can't beat this thing, so I
Right.
need to learn it. And we had those moments several times, and every time we had the moment, instead of trying to resist against it, where we were like, hey, we'll build it better and we'll beat this or whatever, we just know it's time to retool. And that kind of sucked, right? Because then you'd go through a few
Mm.
periods of doing a different thing that you had never done before, where you will be miserable because it's like, man, I could do the old thing, and the old thing I was really good at. But you always know like the end game here is that you even being an expert at checkers will never help you beat anyone in chess, right? Like it's
Right.
you can be as good as you want at the old game, but as soon as you know that like this new game, those are not transferable skills, you
Mhm.
kind of have to go and suck at the new game for a little bit. So my team, they're really awesome. One of the core requirements of working on one of my teams is you have to have low ego. So you have to have the ability for someone to tell you like, hey, what you're doing now is not going to work. We have
Mhm.
to do something different. You're going to have to suck for a while, and we'll all be here for that. But we all know that we have to be on the right track to win.
Right.
So we've done that a number of times, and it sucks every time we do it. And we are going to have to do it a lot more, right? Like tech is changing so fast. We're going to get humbled again, and
Mhm.
we're going to have to be really crappy at something for a few months. But yeah, it's that general thinking of assimilation versus annihilation.
That's fascinating. So then it's acknowledging and retooling in a lot of ways, staying adaptable and flexible, and acknowledging when something is like pound for pound just better at the thing than any of us could ever be. And that is very humbling. It takes low
It is.
ego to admit that to oneself, because we all want to say, okay, no, I can always do it better than whatever they did, right? But like, is
I
it
would
worth
say
the time?
one of the advantages is that what that chime was, my bad.
Don't worry about
Too much software running on my machine. But no, one of the big advantages you have in this new world is you also get to admit that when you read a paper like that, everyone that's starting out right now sucks,
it.
right? So that's kind of cool, right? It's not entirely like this altruistic, low ego thing that I want to believe. The reality is there's a little bit of like, hey, if I start right now, I'll be just as good as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's an advantage that we have right now. Like in 2 or 3 months, there'll be some new AI model that comes out. It'll shake all of our worlds, right? It's inevitable. And in that moment, we will all get the decision of saying, hey, if I start right now, I have a chance of being at one of the top leaderboard folks. If I start in 2 or 3 years, maybe there's a chance I'll never be one of the top. So there is that cool thing, which is tech is changing so fast that you actually do get the opportunity to start over with everyone else.
Right. Right. So it's also acknowledging the opportunity that's in front of you. If I can just outwork, outlearn whatever I have to do, then there is a shot at being at the top. There are people out there who are going to be replaced by certain AI systems, AI agents
Mhm.
or infrastructures. So I wonder, how can we potentially apply this mindset to them who have never really been, or potentially rarely have been, keeping an eye on tech or keeping themselves flexible enough to readapt or retool.
So I have 3 kids, and they're definitely going to be entering a time in the workforce where all the jobs look a little different, and a lot of jobs that used to exist when you and I started job hunting will just be gone, right? Maybe even software developer one day, right? Like it's not to say I'm rooting for that future. I'm really not. I think there's a lot of creativity in how people design code and such, but just to
Right.
give you an idea of how fundamentally different the future might look for the job market for them. So what I tell them is either be a mathematician or an artist. It's just like pick one lane, because these are the 2 areas that humans um, will not really be replaced anytime soon. If you think, oh, a calculator's been doing math for many years, you're not understanding the math that I'm saying. Mathematics is actually at a deeper level very creative. Like
Right.
if you really study math and you understand the core components of math, you unlock different ways of thinking. You unlock different markets. You invent things that could never be thought of before. And art is just not really replaceable right now. There's you can make an AI system draw you a painting, but there's something that I don't really have the words for. But when human suffering is involved in the painting, you connect with it a little different, right? And it sounds so macabre, but it's so true, right? Like there's a little bit of the human experience inside of art that
Right.
we touch with, right?
Mhm.
And that's not something that like an image generator is going to be able to do anytime soon. It can make a facsimile of it, but I think we're going to have an uncanny valley like response to that, where we'll see something that's not quite human art and not quite appreciate it the same. There's a song, Silver Springs. I'm not sure if you've heard it, but basically it's this older song, and it's the singer and the guitarist were in some long, romantic tryst, and the song is the singer literally singing to the guitarist, and
Fleetwood
it's
Mac,
after a
right?
breakup, right? Yeah, yeah, and it's basically this thing that you're watching it, and you know that the person playing the guitar hates hearing this song, right?
Mhm.
And the person that sings it hates kind of singing it to them, right? Like there's like this whole thing you get to experience inside of it,
Right.
and that's relatable, right? Like that's something that as humans we touch with, like that makes sense. So yeah, I guess I've taken so long to answer your question, but I
That's
think
fine.
that both art and mathematics will be bulletproof in the future. Despite what others may think, I think those are going to be things that people should double down on. So if you're displaced right now by AI and you think about where's bulletproof area I should go into, you should think about art or math, like deep STEM or deep creativity. And in both those areas, if you could make me laugh or figure out a new type of metal to be made, you're going to make a lot of money.
So then, what processes have you gone through or have you formulated to retool, reskill in the past whenever these kind of situations have come out? Maybe it's other people can use.
Yeah, I would say that they're always personally disruptive. And so that's not something that's avoidable. So, like,
Mhm.
you have to work your normal job and you have to do your normal thing.
Right.
And then you have to set time aside that you would have normally played video games or gone out with friends or whatever to retool. And
Right.
it's not fair. And that sucks and doesn't matter. And the world is cruel that way. So, my advice is if you're trying to figure out how to like make it happen without personal disruption, there's not really a path there. It'll always require you to sacrifice something personally. And that's not a fun thing to talk about because it's not talking about work-life balance, but it's reality for me at least.
Okay, let's unpack the idea of how creative math actually is after you get beyond some of those foundational parts of it. Like, what is so special from what you've seen?
Well, I started my career being able to describe like how to make money with math. And so I can talk from that lens, which is
Mhm.
math ends up being this tool which you can describe phenomenon, and that process is really useful. So if you're trying to model specifically something, that's useful, or if you're trying to calculate or estimate, And then when you think about things like AI is actually a lower form of math. Like it's like basically if you're a mathematician, I were to show you today what AI is or how it works, you would kind of chuckle. You'd be like, "Oh my God, this is it. This is you're using linear algebra. Like the course I learned in a month and a half is like the basis of the whole AI industry."
Right.
And so you become bulletproof that way. And so like we talk about creativity, like if you understand how to use math to describe the world, like as a language for the world, that's incredibly useful. And pretty much anyone on earth will hire you, whether you're in medicine or finance. That's a useful tool. But more
Mhm.
importantly, as technology changes and evolves, that tool is, because it's so superior to even AI, it's easy to kind of like drop down into AI and understand it. And whatever tools come out in the future, whether they be AI adjacent, whatever, a math or a math degree, an advanced understanding of math will help
Right.
you basically speak the language that that system speaks. So it'll be something that you'll kind of you get default expertise in.
Mhm. So I mean, this is something I really enjoy talking about, honestly. So it sounds like you're with math, you can actually, with advanced levels of math, you can actually start to create a certain amount of clarity around previously like obscure situations. So you can
Yes,
create conditions around understanding. And
correct.
the majority of the world is abstract and not upfront understandable. So then math is essentially a tool of understanding.
It is. That's actually a fantastic way to put it. It's math is a tool of understanding. Yeah.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So then I should go back and get a degree in mathematics, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Or get really good at making people laugh. Right. Like
That's it.
you get to pick your lane. I don't think there's one or the other. And everyone will pick one and be surprised that sometimes they pick the other.
So, any words of wisdom that you'd like to leave the audience with after everything that you've experienced so far?
Embrace change coming through in this tech, but in a completely different take, don't be so inclined to jump on every shiny thing that comes your way.
Mhm.
So try to do it. Everyone that's listening has an expertise in their industry, in their domain, in their area of the world, right? Try and understand if whatever new technology comes out is a fundamental shift or like a little tiny step function. If
Right.
it's like a little tiny thing, you should just probably ignore it. If you think the tech that's coming is going to be a fundamental change in your world, no matter how hard it is, you should retool.
All right. I'm going to put that into the show notes. That was a good one. All right. Well, Luke, I really appreciate you taking the time today. Truly, it has been a pleasure, a treat, and I honestly I would love to like continue the conversation for 2 hours, but we have time.
Same. I've loved being here. I've loved the chat. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Thank you.